Teresa here with Springfield Ridge Farm. I am multitasking tonight. I'll tell you, a lot of times Lee cooks supper. He gets off work earlier than I do, so he cooks supper, and he likes to cook. So tonight it just so happened that it's getting to be harvest season, and he worked over, so I got home before him. And he'd already told me what he wanted to fix, and I have pork waiting to be canned. So I got home, I started cutting up my pork to can it and getting my jars prepared, and then all of a sudden he called and said, oh, I'll be home in a little bit. So at the same time, in the middle of canning, I've got to stop and cook for him. So as supper cooks, I'm going to be finishing and preparing my pork that I'm going to can, and finishing up his supper real quick, and then as soon as I get done with his supper, I'll be right back with you to can that. Sometimes when you're still working a full-time job and trying to homestead and trying to can and freeze and do all the homesteading things, garden and everything, you have to rush home from work and still do some of the things that we do, and it's really hard. So that's one reason I'm trying to cut ours. I've cut some. I'm trying to cut more ours and get off as much as I can. Right now I'm off on Wednesdays, and I usually leave work about 2 or 3 on Fridays, and then of course I have Saturday and Sunday. And he gets off a little earlier. He usually gets off around around 3. Unless it's harvest season, which they're fixing to go into. But so before we cut our hours, he was working 65 hours a week, and I was working a lot of late nights. I was off Friday afternoon, so I had more time off than he did, but I was still working the 5 days a week, sometimes till 6:30 at night. So that's why we wanted to cut back and be able to homesteading that we want to do, growing the garden and raising the animals. And so right now we're trying to do both. We have, like I said, cut our hours, but we're trying to work. I work about 32, 36 hours a week, and same for him. We both do. So we're trying to do that many hours and still homestead. Okay, so I'm ready to start canning. I like to do just a couple jars at a time. I've got the jars in hot water over here. I've got the lids over here in hot water to fill my pint jars. And and so I'm going to put a teaspoon of salt in each one. And to fill these up real good. This meat is going to cook way down quite a bit, so I like to pack them real good. And so I'm just packing my jars real good here. I don't think that's working too well for me. I'm just going to pack these jars good, all the way up to the top there. No water in them. This is raw packing. So, and we're not using any liquid in these. This is just raw packing of pork, raw packing pork. And we're going to put a hot lid on there. Oop. And the ring. And then I'm going to set it over in this warm water. I haven't turned it up too high yet. It's just warm for now. And get the next one. Fill that up. Not squeezing it tight. You're just finger tight. I'm going to get... and we're just filling the jars up. So what I'm putting in here is just raw pork, and I'm going to show you. I just cubed it up in like 1-inch cubes and packed that in there. This is just pork that we had suddenly came up that we needed to utilize, so we put some in the freezer, and then I decided to cut some lean off of the shoulder, as much lean as I could off of one of the shoulders to can it. And okay, now all my jars are in there. I'll show you. We have ended up with 7 pint jars. I'm going to crank that heat on up and let that start getting good and hot. Sometimes I start with it hot, but since this was cold packed, I turned it down lower to start it. And like most times I would start it up about 6 and put my hot food in my hot jars and then put them in there. But with this, I started it way down low because of the cold pack. With the cold meat would make your jars cold and would bust them when you stuck them in there if the water was too hot. So this way it all heats up slowly at the same time. Okay, this water's getting pretty hot now. Arrow on the lid. You just line it up with the arrow on the handle on this type of pressure canner. This is a Presto. Slide that on there till it locks into place there, and then I'm going to turn this around so that I can see my gauge. From over here, we'll just turn that around there and watch that until the steam starts coming out back here, and then let it steam for 10 minutes. We pressure canned that for 75 minutes for pints, and it has already finished cooking and it's cooling down now. I've turned it off and it is starting to, the temperature's dropping down. As soon as that temperature hits 0, we'll wait about 10 minutes and take that lid off and we'll be done. Okay, so I've taken the lid off and I'm fixing to pull out some of my jars. I've actually already heard a couple of pops as soon as I took the lid off for just a second. So I'm pulling these out of here now. I'll show you what we got. It's still bubbling away in there. Got a few of them out, and I've heard a whole lot of There we go. They're all done. They're still bubbling some. And there they are. Thanks for watching. Y'all give us a thumbs up and subscribe and share and keep watching.